welcome to the Under Centre podcast. I'm your host, Darmar, and I am joined by just Jake Woolhead today because Fionn has decided to go on holidays. Jake, how are you?
I'm not doing too bad. I don't think I'm a huge fan of just Jake, but I'll take it just for now. I think Fionn snuck himself off to Spain, hopefully to catch a bit of sun, but I believe he's in the wrong part of Spain for that.
Yeah, I think he's gone to the rainy, snowy part. He's saying he was going to.
I didn't know there was a rainy, snowy part, but
no, I didn't either. But hey, every day's a school day, isn't it?
Every day's a school day.
We're not just a duo though tonight. We are delighted to be joined by Dan Reardon. You may know Dan because he runs the Super Mega Fantasy Podcast, the one place to go to for all your fantasy football needs. Dan, how are you, man?
Oh, good. Thanks for the plug right off the top. Really makes the day easier.
There you go. You don't have to remember it. I'll remember it for you.
Perfect. Yeah, I don't even have to do an intro. I can just chill out here. I don't have to do the stupid hey at the start of a show, that you feel really awkward when you do.
Yeah, no, don't need that. I just need your scalding hot takes that make no sense at all so we can comment on more. That's all.
Oh, perfect. I've got lots of those.
Excellent stuff. We are going to be talking. We don't know what we're going to be talking about. It's going to be the Wheel of Topics, of course, because it's our week 14 review show. And before we start, I should mention, though, this show and all of our shows this week are brought to you by Horan Estates. Horan Estates have so kindly decided to sponsor the shows this week. And they are your nationwide estate agents with 2 locations in Dublin and Galway. They're the experts to use to ensure you get the best possible results in the sale or letting of your property. Head to their website, horanestates.ie, to view their properties or to make an inquiry about selling your own property. Or if you want to let it out as well. Thank you to Horan Estates for the sponsorship for this week's show. And we should mention that they've very kindly as well helped us donate a jersey of your choice. That's right. We're going to be running the competition after the show tonight. So stay close to our social channels at UnderCenterPod on Twitter and at UnderCenterPod on Instagram. We're going to be running a competition and the winner will get to choose an NFL jersey of their choice. Jake, you cannot win this, so don't even ask.
What? Why? It's a super fair draw. I don't understand why I can't go for it.
Yeah, and no, you can't quit the show for 2 weeks and then join after the competition ends.
You got my other plan. That was plan B. I'm so unwilling to spend money on the Giants jerseys at the minute. So
you had a beautiful color rush picked out and everything. It's all gone now.
Oh yeah.
It was custom.
Don't worry. If you want, I can buy you a Cowboys jersey and give you that.
Yeah, I do need a bit like a firelighter, so maybe you can go for that.
It's getting cold these days. It's getting cold. But like I said, stay close to our social channels after the show because we will release the details of how you can enter the competition to win the jersey just before Christmas. Let's not waste any further time. Let's go straight to the Wheel of Topics in all of its glory. There it is. Now I know, Dan, it's your first time seeing the Wheel of Topics. It can be quite daunting. Just brace yourself here.
Can't you see? He's absolutely speechless.
He's absolutely speechless. He doesn't know what to say. Now he could like also be frozen.
Winning streak. Where's my 10 grand?
Where the only thing you can win here is abuse from all of us. That's the only thing you can win.
The one guaranteed thing.
Let's spin the wheel and let's find out what we're going to be talking about first. Oh, is it? Yes, it is.
The Rams are back.
Oh, no.
This is a really appropriate one because, of course, Dan, the podcast man, is a Cardinals fan.
He is a Cardinals fan because if you weren't aware, of course, last night on the Monday Night Football, the LA Rams went to Arizona and beat the Cardinals by 30 points to 23, despite missing Jalen Ramsey and Tyler Higbee, who both were late omissions from the team and due to them having to be put on the COVID list. A tough day at the office, especially for the likes of Kyler Murray, who threw 2 interceptions in the game. The Rams, sort of went ahead early and after that, they sort of never really looked back. But Dan, actually, you'd be the perfect person to start on this topic. Tell me, what did you think of last night's game?
Yeah, heartbreaking for me personally. I watched it on Game Pass this morning, and of course, when you're watching on Game Pass, you can see how long the game's going to last for. And as I was getting into the fourth quarter, I'm watching, and I'm just I kind of knew this game was only at 2 hours on Game Pass, 2:20. And I was like, there's not enough time for anything else to happen. We won't get back into this. But in fairness to the Rams, I've been kind of saying for the last few weeks that I thought the Rams were a bit of a sham, that they were rated as this great team that then they actually weren't. I didn't think they had that strong a core, but in fairness to them last night, they played brilliantly on every phase. They kept Kyler in the pocket. They didn't let him get outside. They really put the pressure on. I think Kyler's mistakes were probably on Kyler. I think those 2 interceptions, I don't think they were because of the Rams. I think that might have been just him. But in fairness to the Rams offense, they moved the ball perfectly. That ball to Cooper Kupp, it's essentially just 10 yards easily. And they didn't go for the big play that much. They seemed to be aware that if you targeted the Cardinals DBs that way, you could give the ball up and turnovers could happen. They seemed to address that very early, and they had a game plan that they weren't going to turn the ball over, and they scored, I think it was like 6 plays in a row, so that you couldn't really have any complaints with the Rams offense at all.
Yeah, a bit of a weird game. As you said, the 2 Kyler Murray interceptions were a bit strange, all right. It just kind of looked like he didn't see them, or just didn't give enough juice on a couple of the balls, not enough height or something like that. And then there was, of course, the last play of the game that, like, it's just so weird. I don't know what the plan was. It kind of almost looked like a quarterback draw, and then he ended up running around in the circle, and then obviously Aaron Donald came in and tackled him to the ground. But yeah, I don't know. It's a lot easier to win games when you get 2 takeaways from the quarterback like that.
I think they were killed by like 2 penalties as well in that.
It was
drive,
awful. It was a false start, and there was I think a holding
penalty, because there was a decent run by Kyler, and then it was pulled back for the hold.
But even on the series before that, Kyler, he shouldn't have taken that sack. He took the sack, and then the field goal ended up taking nearly a minute off the clock. It's just mental things like that. If he hadn't taken that sack, if he had just gotten away or thrown it away, you would have saved an extra minute and a half they could have used later in the game when they got that onside kick.
Strange to go for it as well on the 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 instead of taking the field goal when you were down by 10 at that point, and then when you got the ball back, you took the field goal anyway. Thought that was just a bit of a strange sequence there.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what the analytics always say anyway.
Yeah, I know, but
you gotta trust those analytics, Jake.
Yeah, but
if it was my play call, though, I don't think I'd be running it with James Conner there. I think I would have been.
It was a weird play call. There's so much more. I was expecting a Kyler run somewhere, QB draw or something along the lines of that. Maybe a little bit too expected, but certainly the James Conner coming from 6 yards deep in the backfield wasn't the most efficient play call you had. Even a Rondale Moore run somewhere would have been better than that.
Yeah. Well, Murray did struggle to get the ball to, the star receiver, D-Hop throughout that game. The first quarter seemed to be going successfully, but after that, he sort of struggled to get the ball to him.
Yeah, I think it was 2 targets in the first quarter, and then it seemed like we didn't see Hopkins for a solid 15, 30 minutes of gameplay. There was nothing really happening. He targeted AJ Green a lot, but you would have thought with Jalen Ramsey off the field that it would have been an easy game plan just to go to Hopkins basically every play.
Yeah, and I think AJ didn't he have. But no, was this? Do you think it was AJ's fault for that long pass that should have been a touchdown where he never turned his head? Or do you think that was more the throw?
I actually think there was a lot of pressure on the inside with that. I think Kyler was falling back, wasn't he, when that ball was thrown? But it looked like Kyler kind of snatched at it and threw it the wrong way.
Yeah,
and look at one of them option routes where they could have went. He could have decided on the top of the route, and they weren't on the same page for it.
Yeah, and then looking at the bigger picture then for the rest of the season, this is a divisional loss, against a division rival who is fighting for the top of that NFC West title, but also it took the Cardinals from first in the NFC rankings now down to third.
Yeah, the Christmas Day game against the Colts now is going to be a lot of fun for most of us. I think we'll all be having a few beers and watching that one quickly just to keep an eye on things.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll have to see. Do you think though, with the schedule that the Cardinals have left, do you think that maybe now they're in a little bit of trouble to sort of get that number one seed now, especially for holding on to it for so long?
Yeah, definitely for the 1 seed. It's a little bit worrying. It's the schedule has the 49ers and the Rams on, not the Rams, sorry, the 49ers and the Seahawks on it again as well. And divisional games you just never really know. Like even with the Seahawks not having a great year, you wouldn't put it past the Seahawks just to have a little sting to the tail at the end. And home field advantage is so important. You don't want to go to Lambeau. You don't want to have to play Aaron Rodgers in the snow.
Yeah,
very disappointing for Dan.
Well, to be fair, from the Seahawks point of view, I was kind of hoping you'd have the 1 seed wrapped up by week 18, so you'd play your second team, so I wouldn't have to go through that. But we already played your second string quarterback and lost to them earlier on this year, so I don't know which one I kind of want at this stage. So
you never want to lose to the divisional rivals. Never.
You never want to lose to Colt McCoy, but the Seahawks seem to do it all the time as well. It always happens. But let's wrap up that side of things, and we'll get back to the wheel in 1 second. But before we do, I should also say that we are continuing our sponsorship with McGowan's of Phibsborough too. Upstairs at McGowan's is the place to be on NFL Sundays. McGowan's has everything you'll need: multiple screens to watch the games, and NFL Red Zone on their big projector with some tasty pints and some even tastier food. Drink deals including if a player scores in the main Sky Sports games, then you will get 2-for-1 drinks for the rest of that quarter. We run a poll every week to see which player from each game you think will score a touchdown. When you make that choice, if he does on the Sunday, the rest of the quarter, 2-for-1 drinks. You had a choice of, I believe, Amari Cooper or Terry McLaurin last week. All of our listeners decided to go, not all of them, but the majority of our listeners went for Terry McLaurin. If they'd gone for Amari Cooper, you could have 2-for-1 drinks. So that's what it's like. So if you think that the people voting are wrong, make sure you get involved in those votes so you can be in with a chance to win 2-for-1 drinks in McGowan's. Make sure you book your table, of course, for Sunday by keeping an eye on our social channels, or follow McGowan's on Instagram and Twitter too. And thank you, of course, to McGowan's for continuing to look after the show. But let's get back to the wheel of topics here, and let's see what we are going to be speaking about next. Dan, the worst part is over there. You had to talk about your own team, so the rest's a duddle.
I must say, you're getting good at those ad reads. Really make me want a pint now.
That wasn't the ad read, Dan. So the Browns beat the Lamar-less Ravens. I always say that because when I'm doing the AFC North bets, I always bet the under because there's never many high-scoring games. Of course, this one has to be the over by like 2 points that Rex might bet last week, because the Cleveland Browns beat the Baltimore Ravens by 24 points to 22. Jake, I'm going to start with you on this. The Browns, they come through in the end against the Ravens, who lost Lamar early in the game. They had to go for Tyler Huntley instead, who, to his own credit, didn't look the worst for the rest of that game, played quite well, but the Browns did just enough in the end to get the win.
Yeah, just enough is right. They were close to actually losing that game as well to the backup quarterback, as you said, Tyler Huntley. It was weird seeing Lamar go off like that with the ankle injury, and we're still not quite sure what the severity of that is. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't think the Browns could almost brown it, but they did. I'm glad they won it, though, because I had them in my pick'em this week, and glad to get that extra point above. I think Fionn had the Ravens as well, so me and you had the point ahead of Fionn on that one.
Yeah. Oh, well, we're talking about predictions, I should say. I was perfect in the early games. Just want to get that out there. Perfect
Ooh.
in the early games. So just saying, the comeback has started and it will continue until the end of the season, until I am crowned champion. No co-champion like last year. Standalone. But Dan, what did you think yourself of the Browns now coming off a bye and getting a much needed win in their division?
Yeah, the AFC North just feels very meh altogether. If you look at all four of those teams, is there any of them that we think can win a playoff game? Really, I don't think the Browns. If they make the playoffs, I think they're going to get picked off easily. Like Baker just looks so average.
He looks terrible right now.
Yeah.
But he's kind of like what we always thought. Well, we always kind of thought he was. He was just like a slightly above average quarterback. Maybe the injuries might be slowing him down, sure, but he just doesn't look great at all.
But remember the
we
hype
talked
after those first 6 games when he came in, and it was records were getting broken, and it was. I don't even know if you can give this guy a contract.
He's going to get a contract.
That's the interesting, because we spoke about that a couple of weeks ago, because towards the end of last season and the start of this season, like you mentioned, Dan, Baker had played quite well. It seemed that they got a system in place where the pressure isn't on him to throw the ball an awful lot. They rely on the running game, and he's there for the few for the not the minimal times, but like they don't want him to throw 40-50 times a game. So if he gets that 20-30, but now with this injury and his persistence and his, you could say ignorance perhaps to continue playing on and not take time out, because maybe he believes that it can't possibly he believes that Case Keenum's going to be him for a starting job. It must be because he's trying to earn that contract. But is he, devaluing himself by continuing to play and play poorly?
I can't imagine that he has much value at the minute anyway. I think he's probably rock bottom, isn't he?
Well, I think he's blessed by the fact that there's a really, really bad draft class this year in the quarterback position.
But the Browns probably wouldn't have been in a position to draft a quarterback anyway this coming draft. So they're like,
thoughts of them trying to even move up possibly to get one would be out the window.
Yeah, but do you really want to hamstring your team and do that? They're better off filling that offensive line or picking up a position of need and keeping Baker, because an above average quarterback can get you far enough if you have a strong team around him.
But he has a strong team around him. He has two really good running backs. He has got a strong offensive line there, especially in the two tackles positions, especially. He had decent wide receivers. Like Jarvis Andrews is a serviceable wide receiver. I think he's quite good. Donovan Peoples-Jones could improve and be a better player and be that deep threat that they're looking for. And like in the tight end position, especially David Njoku and Austin Hooper, they've got some really good tools there.
Yeah, I mean, they're good tools, but like the team could always be better. I suppose I just don't think going for a quarterback and trading all assets away to get a quarterback or to reach and pick a quarterback is probably going to do them any better than Baker Mayfield can do.
I think with Stefanski's offense, like they really don't need the quarterback that much either. Like as long as Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are both healthy, that seems to be the way it goes. But have people just figured out this offense now? They figured out if you can neutralize the two runners, that's kind of it.
Well, we'll see now, because they obviously we have some Saturday games this week, and they're playing the Raiders on Saturday evening, and it's going to be interesting because we did hear the news today that 8 players have been placed on the COVID list, including Jarvis Landry. They also have,
I think, as well.
Yeah, I have the full list here. So Jerick Willis, Austin Hooper, Wyatt Teller, Tack McKinley, Drew Forbes, Jojo Nason, who's a wide receiver, and a backup tight end, Ross Travis. So, that's 8 at the moment. It could be more before the end of the week, and with not many games left, and it's such a tight division. And in a game against the Raiders, which is definitely a winnable game, especially with how the Raiders have been playing recently, losing all these guys could be detrimental for the end of the year.
Yeah, it's certainly going to make it tough. I mean, like the Raiders can put up points. We know they can, but against the weakened Browns, it might look a little bit easier.
Just more COVID news popped up there as well. The Rams closed their training facility, OBJ.
They're the enhanced COVID thing as well.
Right. Okay. Interesting. It looks like we're having a little bit of a wave throughout the NFL at the moment. And I guess I could ask this question to you guys as well, because more local to home here, with the football here over in the UK, you've seen like games postponed because of Tottenham Hotspur having, COVID issues. Man United have had COVID issues. They've had their games postponed. There are rumors about possibly shutting down football for a couple of weeks over here just to get cases leveled out. Do you see something happening over there now if this continues to happen?
No, I don't think so. I think the league came out and said at the start of the year that they're just not going to accommodate teams that have poor COVID results, because they know
that was
very specific.
Sorry, Jake. That was before there was a new variant, though.
Well, I don't think the NFL has changed or has said anything different about the new variant, have they?
I don't think they've had to yet.
I don't see
because there's only been one confirmed case of the Omicron variant, and that was what they class as a tier 3 level person in Washington, so someone that has next to no contact with players. But if players start getting this new variant, then questions are going to have to be asked.
I don't see them shutting down any games.
No. Yeah, I don't think the NFL is going to stop the machine. There's too much money involved for them at this stage.
Okay, fair enough. I'd try and play devil's advocate a little bit, but you guys are in total agreement, which doesn't help my case. But I'm going to say they're going to cancel it anyway. I know we have to go 6 months without it for each year. Let's not have any weeks cancelled. So yeah, I'm totally on board of continuing to play. Just have to ask the question. That's all. Let's move on and let's go to our next topic. And before we do, make sure you are following us on our social channels at UndercenterPod on Twitter, at UndercenterPod on Instagram. If you want to follow us on Facebook, you can, facebook.com/UndercenterPod. If you want to get our YouTube channel, or if you want to listen to the audio side of the show, go to YouTube or to wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Under Center Podcast. That's where you'll find, subscribe, download, listen, or watch, whichever you want to, of all of our latest shows. That's where you will find them. So let's get the wheel back up here and let's see what we're going to be talking about next. Which one is it going to be? Oh, yes, it is this one.
Fion's not on the show.
Well, I know. The Fionn has been quite vocal in his disdain, I could say, at this stage, because that's what it is pretty much with Fionn and Urban Meyer. His disdain for Urban Meyer, because the Jaguars, of course, lost at the weekend by 20 points to 0 against the Titans in a game. Now, to be fair, that no one really expected them to win. But the extra news stems from the reports that came out last week that Urban Meyer called out his assistants and asked them what they've achieved in the game to warrant being in their jobs, calling them losers and him being a winner. But it looks as though that the only loser in Jacksonville at the moment is Urban Meyer. Jake, what do you think about this farce that's going on?
It's so strange. We've said it for the entire season. Anytime he's come up, and he's come up quite a bit, that ever since he's come into the league, there's just not been a good story that came out of anything out of Jacksonville about him. From the very beginning, hiring all the coaches, the training staff and stuff like that. And
Chris
then
Doyle as well.
Chris Doyle, and then the fucking in the pub thing with the girl, and he's there preaching family and all this stuff to his players, and there's him outside doing what he wants to do outside of it. And now here we go, he's calling the people that he needs to rely on to make the team better losers. And where are you going to get from that? And then you have your first overall pick go out and throw 4 interceptions. The whole team's crumbling, and he needs to be gone sooner rather than later.
Also, should mention a story. Sorry, Dan should also mention a story about Marvin Jones that came out. I don't know if you saw that, about him having to walk out of team meetings because he can't deal with the amount of, I'm going for an Irish phrase, bollocks that's coming out of Urban Meyer's mouth at the moment. But Dan, what do you think?
Did that actually happen? He actually just walked out of meetings.
He left meetings and some training. He had to be corralled back in by some trainers and stuff. He was about to leave the team, apparently.
Good man, Marvin. I'm happy to hear that.
You know it has to be bad because he played on the Lions and they were not good. And now they're on the Jaguars and he's walking out now. He never done that before.
Yeah, no, Urban Meyer doesn't sound like a nice guy at all. And he's basically undone everything he did at college as well. Like you can't honestly think that he has any skills at all. If he took this step up, he was supposed to be this offensive guru. He got a #1 QB, Heisman Trophy winner, and this is what he has. This is his offense. 1 touchdown for Trevor Lawrence in 7 games?
It's awful. Sound like the Giants nearly.
They only ran the ball 6 times against the Titans.
And then he
6
benched
times.
James Robinson as well. Like Trevor Lawrence had just shouted him to bring on the best offensive player on the field.
Yeah,
because he's in timeout.
He hates James Robinson.
He was watching Super Nanny or something that week, putting him in the naughty corner or something like that, just for having a fumble issue, which can happen at any time, you know. And like you were saying, he is their best offensive weapon and their best chance probably for winning games. Well, obviously they're not winning games at the moment, and you know it is going to be an interesting offseason up there or down there in Jacksonville. Because whether they do decide to let Urban Meyer go, there's going to be a lot of staff turnaround either way. Because if you're a staff member and you've been called out, being called a loser and stuff like that, there's no way you're staying on that coaching staff next season. So he's going to have to get all new coordinators and all new, you know, position coaches probably. Because and also if there's anyone in any way decent, who's going to want to go and play or work under Urban Meyer if he does stay in Jacksonville now after all these reports that have been coming out all year?
I also read a thing there earlier. If Shahid Khan fires Urban Meyer, he owes him something like $40 million, whereas if Urban Meyer quits, he owes him nothing. So it could be a bit of a stalemate kind of thing where they're just waiting to see who goes forward first with leaving or firing them.
Khan's the same guy who tried to buy Wembley, though, so 40 million might sound like a small amount.
Yeah.
Well, he could be the guy also responsible for relocating them to London, which I think, you know, could still happen. You never know. Maybe playing in London every week. Or they'd probably play in Tottenham Hotspur now, wouldn't they? If they actually moved over.
They would be playing in Tottenham, all right, but it wouldn't be full time anyway. It'd be 1 month on, 1 month off, or something like that.
I think we've all been to too many Jaguars games at this stage anyway. Just don't move them to London. We'd have to go more regularly then.
My Jaguar game count is still 0 and it plans to stay that way. I don't care how many times they play in London.
Maybe that's where my drinking comes from.
Yeah, it's not that you're Irish, Jake. It's that you've been to too many Jaguars games.
I have. You know? I legitimately have, and I don't remember a single one of them.
Let's go back to the wheel for one last time tonight. I think we have enough time for one more, guys. So let's see what we're going to be talking about before we wrap up this edition of the show. I wonder if we're going to be talking about Washington now that Fion's not here. No, it's not. It's not going to be. It's Denver honor number 88 in convincing win. Sort of a sad note that we sort of finished the show on this evening, because despite the Denver Broncos beating the Detroit Lions by 38 points to 10. The game, of course, was overshadowed by the sudden loss of Demaryius Thomas during the week. Of course, he was found dead in his home in Atlanta. Of course, thoughts go out to his family and friends at this difficult time. But Jake, obviously, we weren't on air directly after it happened. But you know, your sort of, I guess, what was your sort of instant reaction to hearing about the passing of Demaryius Thomas?
It's hard to hear a player like that. He's so young, and he was involved in the league for a while, and it just seemed to be well regarded between players, coaches, fans. Everybody loved him. So it's hard to see. Hard to see someone like that go. And I really liked a lot of the tributes that the players gave him, podcasts around Ireland, even the NFL, obviously everywhere, giving these very touching tributes to him, his family, and the whole lot. And I think, was it an interception in the game? One of the Broncos players intercepted the ball and ran it over to the 88. I really liked that part. I thought
Justin Simmons.
Really lovely. Yeah, I thought it was lovely.
Yeah, on the Denver side, they did a great job all the way through, which is just their praise for him. Like, they even kicked off with 10 men, and the Lions declined the penalty for the 10 men on the kickoff. It would have been a strange thing if they hadn't, but it was all managed perfectly by the Denver Broncos, I think, throughout the whole thing.
I think I seen like the last drive was 88 total yards or something like that. Some weird stat like that. It was very cool.
Wow. I didn't know. No, I didn't know that. That's actually really, really cool stat. But yeah, like we saw, like you mentioned, Jake, all the tributes that we've seen, and it kind of shows when like everyone in the league had like nothing but nice things to say about Demaryius, and there was not a bad word said. The likes of Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, especially coming out. I know Tom Brady only played for about a New York minute, but the likes of Peyton Manning with him for his Super Bowl run, and obviously everyone remembers the famous, famous touchdown against the Steelers, with Tim Tebow, and he will be missed, and I'm sure at some stage in the future he will be in the Hall of Fame, and I'm sure it'll definitely be deserved for the career that he had, multiple time Pro Bowler, and like we said, I hope that he rests in peace and thoughts are with his family and friends at this time. I think, guys, I think that's the perfect place to sort of wrap up the show, unless you want to add anything more before we go.
No, I couldn't find a better note to finish on.
No, 100%.
Excellent. Dan, as always, or Dan, not as always, but Dan, thank you for coming on to the show and helping us and covering for Fionn today. We really appreciate it.
No problem at all. I love hopping on here, and anything I can take away from Fionn is always a bonus.
Excellent stuff. And hopefully we get to hear more of the super mega fantasy pod coming up soon. Hopefully.
Yeah, well, the league has actually gone into the playoffs now, so hopefully we get the first season done and I don't crack under the pressure.
You'll be fine. You've made it this far. Of course it's going to keep going. Jake, as always, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
No problem. And like we mentioned earlier on, be glued, I should say, to our social media channels on Twitter and Instagram at UnderCenterPod for both, because we are going to be running our brand new competition with thanks to Horror in the States. You can be in with a chance to win an NFL jersey of your choice just before Christmas. It's going to be fantastic. You can just call us all Santa Claus by the end of next week, because some lucky person is going to be getting an NFL jersey of their choice. But that is where we're going to wrap up this edition of the show. Thank you so much for watching and listening.